Hello and welcome to the Cynic Weekly. I'm your host, Chris Gallagher. It's Wednesday, it's the 25th of February 2026. We are again recording one day earlier than usual. Usually we go out on a Thursday, but we're recording this week because we're going to Germany. And what could be a frankly terrifying second leg of the playoff. But we are here. We're going to talk about Celtic. We're going to talk about a variety of different things. We're going to talk about the game at the weekend, talk about the weekend results. We'll talk about stuff off the field, including the collective notes, the notes from the collective meeting with the club, chat about the manager search, and then we do have games that we need to talk about because obviously this weekend is the huge derby at Ibrox, and I think we all are nervous about that. I'm going to introduce the panel. It's the same panel as last week. It's a great panel. It's the B team, but not B as in negative. It's just their name begins with B. I should have thought that through. Barry, hi Barry, how are you?
I'm great, thanks. Yeah, there's certainly loads to get into, and delighted to be with the B team again.
B team, Barry and Boud. So hi Boud.
Hiya. Usually part of the C team, Chris. But
of course, yeah, we flipped up, and sometimes we're the G team, Gallagher.
Oh, wow.
So
all the teams.
All the teams.
Yep, hit the G spot with Gall and Gall. Sorry.
Write that down.
We need to use that moving forward. Barry's wearing a sensational Napoli tracksuit top. You're a real Napoli guy, right?
Just purely because of Maradona.
Do you think Maradona? I was thinking
fake Napoli guy.
DHgate. This is real, by the way. I would say that.
Maradona. I was obviously we are of the age where we got to see him actually play football in real life. I saw a kind of thread on Twitter yesterday, I think it was, and it was basically saying actually Maradona might be more underrated as the years go on, just because Messi is always kind of going to overshadow him because Messi's seen as the best player. Do you think he was underrated, Maradona?
I've not heard that train of thought before, but I think
it was a Panenka pass sort of compilation.
Okay.
And it was like every single pass, it was like 15 different Panenka passes in situations that were really high profile and really high pressure, and he got them all over. He's just brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, and I was lucky enough to be in Naples last year, just before they won the title, and he's still sort of a deity over there. Like everywhere you go, even in restaurants, like modern restaurants, there's still a picture of him on the wall. So yeah, love him.
How about like a modern day, not like a modern day, but like Henrik Larsson here, Maradona in Naples.
Yes, yeah, obviously not quite Larsson levels, but he was a good boy, and right to be proud of him. I think the underrated things, maybe it's probably a bit generational as well. I think
that's what I was trying to say.
Aye, and I think at the time there was a wee bit, because there was always the Pelle's the best player, and real ones new. I think that's what the kids 10 years ago used to say. But he was incredible. I think there's always going to be that element of people that haven't seen him play football thinking he's overrated, and the players that I see are better. Although he was recorded, because we didn't get to see a lot of Pele. He still wasn't as good though.
I would say, obviously Maradona, politically very aligned with our way of thinking. Also politically outspoken, and that doesn't really happen as much anymore. So yeah, look, I'm trying to avoid talking about Celtic. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
You want to keep talking about?
Mind that picture of Maradona Central? The
hotel. Yeah, he scored his first goal at Hampden against Scotland.
Yeah, that's a great photo. Yeah, mm-hmm.
His autobiography.
78, I believe, or 79 maybe. 78, I think. Just before the World Cup, he never made the World Cup squad.
Yeah, there's a number of autobiographies, but I've got one, and it's just really good because he obviously helped to give all the information.
No, I found if it's the same one, when he talks about like how he's going to like do a player, like I think he means like not like physically harm him, but like show him up. But he calls it like I'm going to vaccinate someone.
Yeah,
don't think it's translated very well.
And there's a great document. We're talking about Maradona. Celtic, right? So,
did you see the Maradona film that came out a while ago?
Well, that was lovely.
Yeah,
went to the GFT. Yeah,
superb.
Tune was banging.
Right, we need to talk about Celtic. All right,
are you sure?
We were at, myself, Barry and Boud were at the game at the weekend, the Hibs defeat, and we did a reaction podcast after that. It was very raw. It was recorded literally about an hour after the game.
As in Eddie Murphy?
Yes. What was the second show?
I don't know.
What was the
Put me on
second?
the spot there.
Raw and... Raw was the red.
Yeah, Raw was the red one.
And then the purple one was Delirious.
Delirious.
That's what will be by the end of this.
Absolutely. So yeah, if you want to sign up for constant and consistent Celtic podcasts, go to thecynic.co. You can also search for us on Patreon, search for The Cynic. Pretty much daily podcasts, about 32 podcasts per month, feature podcasts, reactions to every game, weekly news shows, a bundle of stuff, Celtic Women's Football Show. If you have any questions or comments or interest in it, search for those websites, or also editor at thecynic.co, send us an email. Opening question. And this has been a week of complete, I don't know, thought about Celtic moving forward and kind of what's going to happen, what's on the forefront. Barry, what do you think will bring relevant change to the football club, and what should that look like?
From my point of view, I think it has to be a clearing of the decks. I don't think you can... So again, just to stress, this is what I would like, probably not what I think will happen, but I don't think you can just take one or two individuals out of the boardroom when you've got the puppet master pulling the strings.
Yeah.
I think to have real change, and for it to be the club that we all want, I think we need new ownership. Someone at the top who cares enough to come to AGMs in the odd game.
The odd game, aye.
Yeah, it'd be nice. And didn't get involved too much in the day-to-day football aspect, because even though he's an absentee landlord, I believe that he still... As we've heard, he still has to kind of push the button on loads of major decisions that if we were a proper functioning football club, we wouldn't have to slow everything down to appease him and give him his place. So that was what I'd like at the top, and then I think you need to completely revamp the board of directors. Like I saw a thing recently, and it was talking about like getting the best in class in a football club. So I think we're all happy to have people in the backroom staff who have played for the club, a core of players who have come through the ranks, and if they're Celtic supporters, great. But I don't believe you need the bleed green and white in the boardroom.
No.
Because I don't believe that's true for a start. They've been there far too long. Loads of them are in their late 60s and 70s. The ones who aren't dance to the tune of the older ones. So I couldn't care less if there are Celtic supporters in the boardroom. And I would almost take things being slower over the next couple of seasons to get it right long term. So I'd like to change the board of directors. I would like real football people making football decisions. I think we need to have a look at what's happening at the academy level. Obviously, fan engagement. I'd love to see the Celtic end. I think that'd be such a quick win for if we were, God willing, to get a new owner, put that in place straight away.
Yeah.
And then I always remember Christian saying that I would agree with this. Like, I don't think it is that Celtic don't spend enough money, and I don't think the fans are asking for us to spend a lot more money, but it's we just don't spend it in the right way. Like, if you think of the 5 million in Balikwisha, that's criminal.
Yeah.
And Bodo Glimt have shown that you don't need to spend a lot of money to be successful in Europe. And I was talking about this to some of my friends last night. I think Celtic could do what Bodo and Bruges and Midtjylland do on a much bigger scale, because we've got the resources that they don't have for most of them. We've got the fan base. So I think the term sleeping giants kind of thrown about and probably diluted what it means, but I think there's so much potential in Celtic that we don't even scratch the surface with it. So if we could get even half of them, I think we would be in a much better place to move forward as a club.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Great points. Boud, I imagine you would agree with most of what Barry says there.
Well, no, I want the board to stay exactly as they are.
What do you think? Can you foresee that happening soon, and what do you think it would take for huge changes to happen?
No, I'd love to lie to you and say I can't see it happening, but I really don't. I suppose, I mean, if things continue to get bad, there will be some sort of change, whether it will be as comprehensive as Barry's described. I'm still unsure on that unless we get to the point where Desmond decides he's had enough and he wants to sell up. But again, I think we're not going to be that lucky. But yeah, I agree with absolutely everything he said. I think we want some fan representation on that board as well. And I think, yeah, he's absolutely right about track. Well, obviously we should have maybe spent some money in January, for example.
That's true, yeah.
But typically we do spend money. We're not massive spenders from the fact that we've accrued a huge mountain of gold that's sat in the bank at the moment. But I don't think the board gets slack for being overly prudent necessarily. As Barry said, it's just about making the right decisions. And again, there's common sense there. I don't think any Celtic fan expects every single signing we make is going to be an absolute winner. We know some moves are never going to work out. We
need the intent there, though, right?
So, well, yeah, we need a system, a committee of people that don't really know much about football. Deciding your signings isn't going to work. We've seen that. Stuff like Balikwisha, that should just never happen. There's no reason why that happened other than desperation, which again shouldn't be happening.
But we chased him for two windows, and then you bring him in and you do not play him. Now Balikwisha might not be good enough for Celtic, but the sample size we've seen of him,
I think not playing.
I mean, yeah,
absolutely not.
But I think the decision not to play him at Celtic right now is absolutely correct. But he just shouldn't have been signed, and he shouldn't have been signed for that much. And again, even if you're desperate at the end of the window, I'm sure he could have quite easily spent £5 million on some
good players,
based in Scotland that you know a bit more about, or just players that aren't, with all due respect, can play football, that are professional footballers, because I do not believe Balikwisha is a professional footballer other than he plays for a professional club and gets paid a lot of money. But
well, I mean, the point I was going to make is this is all came up from, we did the agenda on Monday and we talked about, the potential that Celtic, now the chances of Celtic finishing fourth are probably still quite low. Well, Barry maybe disagrees, right? Maybe Boud disagrees. But from my perspective, I think Celtic probably will third is the fact that we're talking about. We'll finish third. It's incredible, right? But do you think if we did Kieran Devlin raised a good point on Monday where he said essentially the only way he can see change happening is if it really affects the bottom line and it affects the share price. And the shareholders then kind of money, and they kind of have to shuffle the deck a bit. Can you see that being an effect if we do finish third or fourth?
I think so, but my concern is then that they say, well, this is what we've got the rainy day fund for, and pat themselves on the back for saying, well, this is why we haven't spent the money and we needed this. But
it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and with completely ignoring the fact that if they'd spent say 10 million in the middle of...
Can you just move your mic down a bit? Yeah.
If they'd spent 10 million, say, end of July, early August, and it was on two decent players, I think we'd have more than enough to buy Kyrat, and that'd have been 40 million guaranteed. So they pick and choose which bits they want to give themselves credit for, and it's just not a way to run a football club. So I think he's probably right. I think that would, and the fact that if it was Conference League football, God forbid, the money, and that's a pittance. Even if you go deep into it. So
can you imagine if we go into that competition and we don't do well in it?
Yeah.
We've been talking for years about the idea of, if we ever played in the conference, we'd sweep up, would we?
Yeah.
Just at this point.
Maybe it would get to the stage where that would be embarrassing for Dermot Desmond and his golfing chums.
Chums is a great word.
Chumps, more like.
Yeah.
So the game at the weekend, Celtic lost by 2-1. As I say, we reacted to that. You can check that out on the cynic.co. It wasn't a particularly horrendous performance, but it wasn't a performance that really gave you confidence, Boud. We can talk about the red card. It does have an impact, but what was your summing up your thoughts after the game and the performance and the drop points?
Yeah, it's gutting, and it's one of those. It could be an absolutely pivotal point of the season where this is where we throw it away. I don't think it's over, as you said. It's not 100% over yet, but we're now very much relying on other teams' form tanking.
Yeah.
Again, as you say, I mean, it wasn't the worst performance we've had recently, but it still wasn't a good enough performance, and it was still only small periods of the game where we looked like any kind of threat or we were putting bits together. We've been saying it all, just like we all said before Kairat, we need to strengthen this squad to make sure we qualify. We were all saying it's, as fun as it is on the 90th or 94th minute celebrating a winner, we can't do this every week. It's, we need to actually improve our performances. Having terrible performances and just pulling off a win, you can do that a few times in a season, and that's a champion's mentality. If you're doing it every single game, that just means you're bad.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunately where we are. So yeah, pretty brutal performance, but it was a long time coming, the result, to be honest.
Barry, in terms of as what Boud says there, we did a debrief, myself and Will, about how Celtic were performing, and we keep saying this, and it's kind of unfortunate, but it doesn't feel like we have a strategic tactical plan to break down different types of opponents. It's very much go out there and do what you've done last week, and hopefully it'll work this week.
Yeah, and every week you go into a game thinking, right, if we can get a couple of early goals, we might be all right, but when they don't come, where do we go from there?
Yeah.
Players, I think we said on the reaction, the players don't look coached. I know, kind of hark back to those days, but remember we used to say on Rodgers' kind of first time around, they looked overcoached. Jesus, what a novelty. But I think Boud's right, there were aspects of the game that looked more encouraging, but very sort of minuscule and not enough to put all together for a complete performance. But I just feel like we don't have any way of breaking down a team. And just going back the other way, I think it's clear that the opposition don't have to work too hard. Like, they just kind of wait for us to make a mistake and then pounce on it.
Yeah.
And that's happening most games now. And I think, as Boud says, the previous games where we got the last minute winners were against 3 bottom 6 teams. As you go up the levels and more quality, they'll take those opportunities more frequently. So it paints a really sorry picture, because we aren't great going forward, abysmal in midfield, and even worse at the back. Yeah,
and I think, I didn't think Hibs were particularly good, but they were clinical when they needed to be, and it was almost like they were kind of playing possum at times, where they were just sitting in and then hitting us with one or two. The big concern for me is how easily they play through our midfield. And if you look at the Rangers game, well, the Stuttgart game will come to, but you look at the Rangers game with that, Diomande will be running about, half in people not getting even talked to, probably.
The Lee McCulloch licence.
The Lee McCulloch licence, as we call it. LML, as we call it. I don't think it's going to take off, quite, I'll be honest. But that's my concern with the Rangers game, is their physicality, their aggression. I don't think they're particularly in a great place either after the weekend. So we'll talk about the Rangers game coming up. The red card, there's been a lot of discourse around it, but let me just talk you through what happened. So Celtic appealed it, and they released a comment on X that said, Celtic FC can confirm that we will be submitting an appeal to the SFA in relation to the red imposed on Austin Trusty during yesterday's match. The club believes that the player was wrongfully dismissed and that the decision was reached following VAR intervention. After the match, Martin O'Neill said, I've just had a word with the referee. He said he was going to just have a word with the 2 players. Then VAR intervened and said it was violent conduct. You can't do this if that's the rules now. It doesn't matter if someone is holding on to you. You can't, in an attempt to break away, you can't thrust down the manner. So we'll talk about the appeal. Did you think it was a red card, Barry?
I think it's soft, but it was aggressive. And you don't want to give the referee or VAR, whatever, the opportunity to do that. I think they were both at it. McGrath had a hold of Trusty, but it doesn't look great, I think, particularly when you see it slowed down. It's like a karate chop motion, almost, isn't it? And I know there was footage last night of, was it Chermiti doing that against us at Celtic Park, and there was no case to answer there. But yeah, I just think with VAR now, everything's going to be scrutinised. And while I don't think it was a red card, I can see why it was given. And it just, my kind of frame of mind is it's just sheer stupidity from Trusty. But yeah, And also, I think when we saw that Celtic were going to appeal, I think there was no chance that was ever going to be overturned as well. So it kind of smacked of me of, oh, look what we're doing, look how busy we are. And not to jump too far ahead, but see when you couple that with the manager's comments recently about the supporters, McGregor talking about the outside noise, it seems to be they're looking for excuses for everything apart from their own failings, and I'm getting sick of it.
Yeah, me too. Boud, your quick comments on it, you think it was a sending off?
No, I don't. I think Barry's right. It was a stupid thing to do. Why give them the option? But I think when we say...
Can you not see how aggressive it is, though? I mean, it's
aggressive, but I get the guy's holding him. He's got every right to get the guy off him. And if the guy's holding him, it's a foul, so he should have been booked, therefore can't give him a red card. The guy also then goes down holding his face. That's a second booking simulation. The other guy should have got the red card.
McGrath should have been off, okay,
correct.
Interesting.
But the other point I would make is, see if the ref had given the red, and then they said, maybe it wasn't, but we couldn't, there's not enough there for VAR to intervene and tell him it's no red, so it's still a red. I'd maybe accept that. It's a bad decision by the ref, but fine. The ref has looked at it, said no. VAR's then stepped in and said, that's such a bad decision, we need to overturn it. No.
Yeah, that's to counteract what I was saying about Celtic getting house order. That is the crux of the matter for me. The fact that the referee has said nothing, as it says, like there's nothing. I'll just talk to them.
Yep.
I'll just talk to them, and then they're like, no, you need to go ahead with the red card. So that's criminal. But in the grand scheme of things.
But you say it's aggressive, and it is aggressive, but he's aggressively releasing the guy from holding him. An aggressive relief. We've all released Stephen.
What are we doing?
Boud after
What's
dark.
happening?
Got some red wine.
The X team.
Here we go. I think there's like, okay, so some comments from, I think John McGinn was on one of the kind of TNT shows. I think the red card does change the game. If that's going to be a red card, then you're going to have the microscope out at every single corner. It's stupid from Trusty, but if I'm marking someone and holding them at a corner, I'm expecting to get my arm punched. It happens all the time.
What? That's a bit specific.
Yeah. When Chermiti was getting the ball back at 2-2 against Livingston, he did something similar, maybe not as aggressive or with the same force. I think that's kind of the point, though. But that can't be a red card. Look, I understand.
It's a basic principle of self-defence, Gall. Somebody attacks me, I'm allowed to defend myself.
I just think it looks really aggressive. I understand why. It's one of those where it kind of sits in the middle where I can understand why people say it's a red card, and I can understand why some guys like John McGinn, professionals in the game, are saying if you give it for that, you have to give it for everything. The thing I'm most annoyed about is Trusty himself.
Yeah. It's because almost a big dramatic. Look at me. Look how hard a defender I am.
That's what it seemed.
I'm not weak as piss.
I mean, you're making the good points because it felt so over the top. It felt so. What's the word? Like he was doing it on purpose, like performative.
Performative, yeah.
It felt so performative that it's kind of like, fuck. Anyway, so the appeal, they didn't get the appeal. Celtic have came out and said, we're hugely disappointed at today's decision, which will now result in Austin Trusty being suspended for 3 matches after an arm-to-arm contact. I mean, it's not an arm-to-arm. Come on, he karate chops him.
On his arm struggle.
Arm to arm.
Certainly, we all know all about arm struggles, yeah. Contact as he looked to release himself from being held prior to the ball coming into play. The kind of incident which features in games across the country week in, week out. The match audio demonstrates that the referee saw the incident clearly. Immediately following the incident, the referee said, it's nothing, I'm just going to speak to them in terms of no further action being required. I think Celtic are right to, in a normal season, I think Celtic would be right to do all this, but I'm so fucking annoyed at them that everything feels, as you say, Barry, everything feels like they're purposely doing this to be like, look, it's not... They're always looking for excuses for, we lost that game because he gets sent off. It's not a recruitment. It's not the fact that we've had 4 managers. It's not the fact that this and that. It's because of other outside factors, Boud. And it feels like a ploy. Even though I think they should be appealing stuff like this to an extent.
Absolutely. But again, a club of Celtic size and stature, the champions, dominant, certainly this century, should probably be in a position where we have a backup centre-back that isn't a loanee, that hasn't ever really played. Or a young guy who's not really played. But no, it's all the ref's fault. All of ours fault.
Just as well, just to kind of, you said the act itself from Trusty seemed performative. This seems performative from Celtic.
I don't know. This is the thing about the club. The club, they lost my trust a long time ago.
Trusty. Sorry.
I just, so my, like, they don't have my trust. There's no motivation for me to look at the small margins and say, actually,
what might shake the scales?
What might shake the scales? Trust and scales.
What are we doing, Murray? How about the Benjamins?
Halfers.
That's us. I've got no centre halves.
Baldy. Boud's baldy. We're all baldy.
Hey,
we're all baldy.
It's the B club, the Baldies.
But yeah, I just, they've lost my trust, and it feels like everything is done for reasons to deflect away from what's happening. Martin O'Neill, there's comments today. Martin O'Neill, I did the interview after the game and someone asked me if we were going to appeal. I said that I was not sure because appeals in this day and age are seemingly worthless. When I get the information from the club back on what was said in VAR, I decided yes, absolutely. I'll tell you why. The referee, as he told me on Saturday, has seen the incident. It's not as if he hasn't seen it, it was watching. When he's asked by a very excited man in VAR saying, delay, and they ask him, and he says, no, it is nothing. I'm just going, aye, okay. Yeah. Like, again, as I say, all this is, in a normal season, if that's fine and appeal away and stuff, to me, just now, it just feels like a smokescreen to protect themselves from other things. The results from the rest of the weekend, Rangers drew 2-2 to come back from 2-0, and Hearts 1-1-0. What does that do for the table? The table looks like this. Hearts are top, 28 games played, 60 points. Rangers are second, 28 games played, 56 points. Celtic are third, 27 games played, 54 points. If we win our game in hand, we go above Rangers by a point, and we're 3 behind Hearts. Our game in hand is against Aberdeen away on Wednesday next week. The coming up and Motherwell are 4 points behind us.
They also have the same game in hand that we have.
Yes, they have the same game in hand as we have as well. They've only scored 4 goals less than us, and that's a team that will really struggle to score goals at the start of the season. So I'll just give you some of the upcoming fixtures. So from a league perspective, Celtic have got Rangers on Sunday, then they've got Aberdeen on Wednesday. They've got the cup game after that, but the fixture after that is Motherwell at home. Motherwell's fixtures are Dundee United at home, Dundee away, and then Celtic. If they match us up until the last game, until that third game, if they win at Celtic Park, they'll be a point behind us. If we lose to Rangers and then they beat us, they'll go above us. There's lots of permutations. What does that say for your confidence, Barry?
Just, I think looking at the run of fixtures, it couldn't, on paper, be much worse. You could probably swap Aberdeen for Hearts if it was to be the really worst case scenario. But I think, just as we were saying earlier about the Hibs game, that probably, foolishly, I thought that would be an opportunity to get 3 points on the board. Subsequently, we got 0. I just don't have any confidence in this team to put together a run. I think, obviously, the Nancy era kind of shook our foundations where we just seemed to lose almost all of the games. O'Neill steadied the ship a wee bit, and now that's starting to turn a wee bit in terms of not just performances but now results as well. Granted, it is only 1 defeat, but the run of fixtures is terrifying, I think.
Yeah.
If you add in, obviously, tomorrow night and then the cup game, you're asking a squad of players who the manager probably trusts, maybe 14, 15 of them, to go to the well 5 times in the next 5 games.
I mean, you need to win 4 of them.
Yeah, and that's not taking into account any injuries or suspensions, even a worsening of form. So I just don't see where the wins are going to come from. And that's not a great position to be in, because see, in any normal season, I think if you were looking ahead to those next 5 fixtures,
you'd be licking your lips.
Yeah, and remember Rodgers said this time 2 years ago, this is where Celtic come alive. I feel like we haven't been alive for the best part of 12 months now.
Boud, I think one of the issues is we were talking about on the reaction and last week as well, even in this very studio, that we don't really score goals, but we also are starting to concede more and more. So we're leaking at the back and we're also not able to score and take our chances. What are we going to do? What's happening?
There's not a huge
we're looking for an
amount,
answer.
I think the problem is as well that other teams start to see and sense that weakness.
Aye.
And we don't have the confidence or apparently the ability to turn it round. So it does get worse. Teams do maybe try to take advantage of it. Maybe teams that would have been happy to come to Celtic and try to get a draw are thinking, oh, can we
get 3 points?
So right now our only hope is just it's a fairy tale and this is the darkest point, and Tony Roper's going to tell us that actually it's the point where it all turned round during the double video for 25-26 when he makes a wee joke about how it's unbelievable. Yep.
And we all go, yay! Well, I can't believe we thought we were going to turn around. Yep. We weren't going to turn around. I mean, right, okay, we'll talk about the
Well, just I was going to say, Arthur at centre back could be the solution to all our problems. That could be it.
Yeah, I mean, well, okay, do you know what? We'll go back and forth, right? Because it's good to talk about the games coming up, right? So, Stuttgart last week, I think we were all kind of worried about the game we recorded last Wednesday. It turned out to be a fucking nightmare. It finished 4-1 with a goal at the end that made really compounded the defeat. But when we conceded the third one, it almost was about to be the old double tap. Barry, what did you make of the performance, and is the tie over?
Yeah, straight away, to answer the second question, it's done. Yeah, it would need a miracle to overcome that tie, and deep down would I really want that? Probably not, because it adds more
pressure
games to the fixture list. But I thought we were really poor. I don't think Stuttgart were well organised. I thought the guy Stiller was really good.
Yeah.
But we, again, there was no idea what we were trying to do. We did pounce in their mistake, and that seems to be the feature of,
I think there's
in
like
Europe.
5 or 6 games where the goalkeeper has passed directly to us.
Yeah. Other than that, yeah, it was a real eye opener. Not that we needed it, of course, but I think we're so far off even Europa League level now, which is terrifying considering where we were 12 months ago in the Allianz. And yeah, I watched it in the Peter Scarf Club in Linwood, and when that disallowed goal went in, I just fucked off home. I thought, I need to get away from this. So I feel like I've missed a chunk of the second half. I believe Iheanacho came on, but I'm just so scunnered, and I would never normally do that. But you just feel like all the off-field stuff, and obviously the protest at the start of the game, which I think was completely the right thing to do. And the fact, again, that was blamed for us not getting the result.
I mean, it was famously Celtic score early goals in Europe.
That's it, yeah. And it was shorter than some of the VAR checks we've had this season. So, again, the club looking to blame
the support
rather than their own failings. So, yeah, a really horrible night at Celtic Park. And
there's also a myth going around that we weren't at the game because we were boycotting the Europa League, right? But I know someone who got a ticket and went along. And there was this narrative that's been kind of put around social media that before they threw the tennis balls on the pitch, that it was the best atmosphere build up that we've had, and people I know who were there were like, that's just lies. It's just not true. Boud, thoughts on the protest? Thoughts on the performance? Where do we go from here for the second leg?
Absolutely agree with the protest. We need more protests. As we've said, the people that run the club have failed, and they've failed for a long time. They might have won some trophies over the last few years, but just like this season where we've been getting results and we've not been performing, we've been getting results without performing, and I think it's very clear and obvious what's been happening. You lose your talisman, your best striker, you don't replace him for 2 years. There's something wrong with the club. The performance was shocking. I watched the whole game, but like Barry, I missed a big chunk because I just got myself incredibly drunk for the second half.
That's what you have to do, man.
Yep. So not a huge amount of hope going into this tie in Germany. Barry says, for this season, to be honest, I mean, I don't want to ever say it's for the best that we aren't in Europe, but this team right now can't compete domestically, so I don't see how adding some extra European games in is going to help that.
But see that first half. The first tie, right? The game at Celtic Park last week. Stuttgart did not have to try hard to get goals. Like, we're not talking about when Borussia Mönchengladbach came here and absolutely fucking played us off the pitch. We're not talking about, you know, a European tie where we were completely outclassed and you throw your hands up and you say, do you know what, sometimes that happens. We're talking about a team who were functional and, you know, they had some nice passages of play, but it was like, one of the goals, I can't remember which one it was, maybe the third goal, where from their right back position it was 1, 2, 3 an on goal. And it's so easy to see the problems with this team, Barry. It's so easy to play against. There's no pressure. We don't put any pressure on the ball. Didn't put any pressure on the ball against Hibs.
No, I was just going to, I think any other season, if you'd said you've made it to, well, I was going to say knockout European football, but the playoff to get to the next round, and you've got Stuttgart, generally be pretty happy. I know obviously they did fantastically well a couple of years ago, but especially that team, as you said, a competent team, well oiled.
You take them head on, you'd be like, okay, it's a good challenge. You want challenges, you want Celtic to come up against these teams. And if we were in any sort of functional way, if it was the Celtic team that played Bayern Munich last year, I think we would have beat them.
Yeah, that's the point I was going to make. Probably two of our most sparkling performances in Europe of the last 5-10 years was last season, Leipzig at home and Bayern away. And if I think back just even to the Leipzig game, I think that's maybe potentially the best that we've played in Europe in the last 10-15 years. And that Leipzig team, I would say, were better than Stuttgart.
Yeah.
And the fact that you said you were right about the passing through midfield, but it doesn't help when you just have to get a shot on target and there's a huge probability it's going to go in because of the goalkeeper.
Yeah. Kasper Schmeichel has, obviously, that performance was, I think a stranger on the street could have saved the two shots better than, but the second one where he goes and he tries to, see when a shot is hit directly at him, I've noticed that he will tighten his shoulder and use his sort of forearm or his...
Like a volleyball serve?
Yes, exactly, Barry. And he'll hit it out sometimes. When you're standing up, I can understand that because if the ball's coming directly, you know where it's going to go. Diving down and trying to fucking hit the ball up, the technique was all wrong. And you can, you know, Packy Bonner was talking on Sports Sound, and you know he's not the most, you know, technically gifted, you know, analyst, but he made some really good points where he was like, essentially, it's not his age, it's not his physicality, it's his technique. And you can't fix that, Boud. It doesn't matter whether you're, you know, 29 or 39. Like, you're not going to fix your technique at this age.
Well, I was going to say, you might be able to coach that out of a young goalkeeper.
Of course,
yeah, I don't think the 39-year-olds is likely to change his ways. And I think that, again, leans into these decisions that we've been talking about. Yeah. You know, not signing for Kairat. Signing Kasper, when we initially signed him, it was a punt. And you know what? It was a decent punt. He, you know, last season did well. The idea that bringing him into this season at 39, that you're not at least prepared for, you know, this is possibly just going to go all wrong within a certain amount of time. It's just ridiculous. Like, we had to be ready, and if you don't think Sinisalo's ready to step up and take that, we should have signed another goalkeeper. Yeah. Clear as day. Again, doesn't matter, top to bottom, there's a number of people at the club that just haven't done their job on that front.
And they couldn't have had a more clear example. In the final game of last season, he inexplicably cost us a trophy. Yeah. So, yeah, it's just one of the many things that are wrong with Celtic, and also he's not to be confused with being called Schmeichel Nicholson.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a question, you know, Martin O'Neill post-match, you know, he was pretty damning of the protest, which I found quite disappointing. I would have preferred. I'm very aware that he's a board guy. He's a Dermot Desmond guy. Just because he's one of our heroes doesn't necessarily mean that he's not, I guess, part of the problem. Like, let's be realistic. Part of the problem. It's not nice to talk about the guys you admire and you love as maybe being,
flawed.
Not flawed. It's when you can't see something. It's
tunnel vision.
Tunnel vision. They get tunnel vision, right? So, like, you can't see that how badly the club. Maybe he can. Maybe he can't. And there's rumours behind doors he is. But I wish he would stop I wish him and McGregor and everyone else would stop taking pot shots at the support.
Do you know, Caesar, just to come in that, I saw someone say on Twitter that it's interesting that we've had managers who have been steeped in Celtic history, but the only person in recent times that has stood up for the Celtic support as a manager was Ange Postecoglou. Remember when there was the tennis ball protest at Dundee against Bernard Higgins? He said, I'm sure they'll have their reasons, and that's all you have to say.
That's all you have to say. You don't even have to say anything.
Yeah, I'm here to talk. I'm the manager of the football team. I'll talk about football. Yeah,
so that was fair.
Camp.
Exactly. And Martin O'Neill also said, in time Celtic will be able to compete deep into European competitions. It's not there at the minute. The money in the game is major. We're talking about Premier League teams and Bundesliga teams. Premier League particularly pay 80 million for players who don't even get into the team. That's what you're competing against. It's a difficult one, but that is for another day, another conversation. It was a disappointing night for us. We have conceded some poor goals. It's a long way back. If you go back and you look at what Ross Desmond said, those who talk, this is at the AGM, those who talk about the club not having kicked on in Europe since 2003 ignore the enormous change in the management landscape of football in that period. It's created a gap which keeps growing. It's created a gap which keeps growing and challenges any club to make us more European League. Most supporters understand that. Of course, clubs can still punch above their financial weight, and we should aspire to that. But if you swing and miss, you risk the very stability of the club. And that, do you know what you risk? See if you don't swing and you miss, like Kairat.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? It's Boud, sorry, I'll let you.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. That big financial gulf that Kairat had over us, there was no way to possibly overcome that. It's just pathetic. Again, it's excuses, excuse after excuse after excuse. Yeah. What a shambles of a club. It's absolute amateur hour.
Because when you see what Bodo Glimt do, and you see what Bruges do, and you see these clubs that are smaller than us, minuscule. I mean, Bodo Glimt are smaller than Livingston in terms of the size of the town, the size of their average attendance and all that, right? But Bodo Glimt, Bruges, there's plenty of examples. And then we're being gaslit by not even the board members, a shareholder's son is telling us that we should fucking bow down and kiss the ring, and that we don't know what we're talking about. And the manager, who we all love, but again, is in that kind of space where he's parroting what the board are saying. I feel like we're being gaslit because we're seeing literally smaller clubs do things in Europe, and it's frustrating. Barry?
Yeah, and I don't know why you had to bring the Premier League into it. Just crazy. And I think if you were looking at the Bundesliga, I think only Harry Kane has cost more than 80 million in their transfer record. So it's clutching at straws, it's ill-informed, it's not factual. And again, it comes back to that sort of blame culture of everyone's at fault other than us. And it's so similar to the COVID season again. Like, there's no inward-looking remorse, and it just means that, as we go back to the appeal for Trusty, the things that you would agree with normally, you just don't put any credence in that, because it's just another long list of things that we want to look outwards rather than inwards.
Remember when we played Juventus, and because Martin O'Neill always talks about the time he was here, always he refers everything back. What was the phrase he says? We were magnificent, £100 million in the summer Juventus paid.
Yeah.
Competed then.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Also Beach Ball Sunday,
all that stuff. So yeah, every time there's a sort of comment about we can't do it or we shouldn't do it, it's like, well, you look back recently and you can see there's...
Yeah, and also it just doesn't, I was going to say, I don't think most Celtic fans are expecting us to win the Champions League. I am. but I've got high standards. However, again, a club of our size and finances should be competing to be in Europe after Christmas. To expect us to get to semi-finals and finals every season is probably expecting us to do a Bodo Glimt.
But should we not have ambition?
Well, we should have ambition to want to do that, but just the idea that it's fine that we're barely scraping by and that we're getting bumped off Stuttgart, it's an absolute nonsense.
Yeah, and if that is the real belief inside the club, and Ross Desmond and Martin O'Neill seem to believe that it is, then don't charge us the prices that they charge us.
Yeah.
Like, if our expectations are to be lower, then so should our season tickets.
Absolutely. Everything, the fact that they're charging £90 for a brand new top when it comes out. Oh, well, actually, you'll probably find Adidas set the price. Do they? Is that right? I don't know. The game,
day one, how about that?
The game tomorrow, we've learned that Araujo is unavailable. He didn't travel. That's all the news we have currently as we sit here just at 8 o'clock.
Resting our best player.
I saw an interview with young Donovan, Kobe Donovan, and the same thing happened last week with Bernardo. They had an interview with Bernardo and then he was in the starting lineup. Like the next day, it's kind of like they put to the front people who maybe are on the fringes who are not playing. Boud, would you make wholesale changes tomorrow? Because you're caught in that, sort of liminal space where you've got a game where you don't want to get humped.
Yep.
But you also have a game on Sunday.
You've got a run of games.
But also, if we do get humped, it could affect
the mentality or the mindset.
Where are you sitting?
Yeah, you've got to put out a decent team. Although, to be honest, I'd probably agree. I don't know, I can't remember if it was Barry on the Weekly last week or it was somebody on the agenda or one of the other pods available at cynic.co.
Very good.
Or just one of the chats. But somebody pointed out we should probably just throw in Oxlade, take the 3-0 defeat.
That was me.
Yeah, get
Big Alex
minutes in his legs, and 3-0's probably better than we're going to do. So, that's how I would go for it. But yeah, no, I think you've probably got to. I think you should absolutely have an eye on Sunday, especially if it becomes obvious very quickly that things are going south. But yeah, you don't want to get embarrassed. We've already been embarrassed at home. We don't want to, we don't want to look like Inter or something. You're getting smashed.
Pretty funny. Barry, you get a team there for me?
Yeah, I was just kind of scribbling down. So I would go with Sinisalo in goals, Donovan right back, Scales and Trusty, and Sarachi as your back four. I kind of wrestled with who to play in midfield. I think McGregor probably will start because he plays all the time.
Isn't that crazy though?
Yeah.
Yep.
Bernardo and Hatate either side of him. I'd play Forrest, and I think O'Neill might play McCowan because remember he played him on it was more the right side of midfield actually, against Feyenoord to give you a wee bit more stability.
Yeah.
And then Ian Atchell is your striker.
Do you find it odd that and we've been talking about this last couple of weeks, so Bernardo started last week. Ian Atchell came off the bench. They're both there, they're both involved, and then they're put back into cold storage to then be taken back out. Ian Atchell and Bernardo weren't on the bench on Sunday. They probably both might start tomorrow. It doesn't seem like great squad management to me. What's your take, Barry?
No, it doesn't bode well. See, for them as individuals as well. Like, I'm not trusted to play week in, week out, but I'll turn up and you expect me to perform well for you in one of the biggest ties of the season. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they're used tomorrow almost like because we want to protect the players. You could argue actually that Junior Adamu might come in and maybe play wide of Ian Atchell, but yeah, it's weird. There's been so many things this season that I can't understand, and there's that many players that sometimes you see a picture of like the director's box and you see players like, oh, I forgot about him. So you bring guys out the cold expecting them to do something for you. It doesn't bode well for the sort of harmony behind the scenes at Celtic Park either.
Yeah, absolutely. Boud, in terms of Bernardo and Ian Atchell, does it feel like Ian Atchell is maybe not... Bernardo just...
It's a true mystery.
Yeah, Bernardo's one where every single manager has just not played him this season, so fair enough, there's a big question mark. But Ian Atchell, I thought I made this comment that I think if he'd stayed fit under Nancy's reign, we might have won more games. Now, it probably still would have went south anyway, but Iheanacho's one that I think I like, but it doesn't seem like he's maybe on a Neil pick.
No, but I think there's going to be changes to the playing squad as this season goes on. There has to be. So I don't think you can say Iheanacho's, not going to see the light of day. And as for tomorrow, well, applies to all the strikers really. They all need minutes in the legs, so I don't think there's any problem with Iheanacho starting or Chvanchara or Adamu.
You can't remember their names because they don't play.
See, sorry to jump in there, but see, it's weird because I think Iheanacho, that profile player, is the type of player that O'Neill would have loved first time around.
I think that too.
Yeah, and I think, just to back up your point about if he'd been fit under Nancy, I thought he was our best player in the cup final until he went off injured.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So maybe they are trying to build him up fitness wise, but as you made the point in the agenda the other day, for the likes of Mvuka and other players like that, we're running out of weeks. Like there's 12, 13 games left at most this season, so there's no, if they're ready to play and you think they can contribute, put them in, but it maybe seems like O'Neill doesn't fancy him.
Mvuka is one that, as mentioned, Martin O'Neill said he's just getting used to the environment, he's getting up to speed. But Oxlade-Chamberlain went in straight away, Adamu went in straight away, Chvanchara went in straight away, Araujo went in straight away, Boud, these guys. I mean, the fact that we were trying to buy Mvuka for £3.5-4 million quid and he lasted 45 minutes and it doesn't seem like he's going to make it back in just shows you how much of a fucking shambles we are.
Yes, but again, might have been Barry last week that said it, or on the reaction. Not buying him and loaning him is probably the best transfer bit of business
that's just
done.
Luck.
It's pure luck.
In about 3 years.
Yeah.
That's true. Obviously, the game against Stuttgart, which we'll have a reaction to, it's just with how everything went in the first. If it was tighter, then you'd be looking at it and you'd be going, okay, this is a big opportunity, and you would look to try and make something happen. But because of how easily we were disposed by a team that weren't out of second gear, you do have to put it on the back burner. We then have the game against Rangers. Question for you: is Sunday a must-win?
They're all must-wins, but aye, Sunday's a proper... If we lose that...
If we lose tomorrow and then we'll lose to Rangers, that'll be 4 defeats in a row. Now, I know it's over 2 competitions, but it'll be two league defeats in a row, but it'll also be 4 games where we've lost in a row. Because we're assuming we're going to get beat by Stuttgart, right?
Yeah.
Is Sunday, like, if we don't win that, you think it's kind of curtains?
It's not it's not something that's likely to be came back from. Throw in again, if you're going into your other games, your Aberdeen, your cup game with Rangers, your Motherwell, having lost all of those games, having possibly been beat quite tidily by Stuttgart, losing your derby, and dropping points in that title race. The squad just hasn't shown the resilience that would be required, I think, to turn that around. So, aye, Sunday's terrifying, and I don't have a huge amount of confidence. I think, as I said before, my confidence for the entire run-in and the game against Rangers is based on just how bad Rangers are and the fact that Hearts maybe aren't as good as they've seemed this season.
Barry, do you think even a draw would kind of... I mean, that obviously Hearts being at the top and, Celtic and Rangers drawing is probably perfect for them. It probably pushes them a little bit further ahead. But we don't have any momentum at the moment, it feels like. And a defeat on Sunday would almost distinguish the... It wouldn't distinguish... This is probably going to go up to the last couple of weeks, right, in terms of we'll still be there or thereabouts. But it feels like... I think Alan made the comment that he's worried the wheels will come off at some point, and it feels like if we lose on Sunday, the wheels could come off even further.
Yeah, I think so, and I think it could potentially be one of the biggest games in recent times because it might shape the future of what Celtic look like.
Yeah.
Because if we are to lose, and as you say, it would be our 4th defeat in a row, assuming that we lose tomorrow, with the fixtures coming up, going to Pittodrie. So while I think we could probably still be in it if we were to lose, just the way, as Boud says, the way the fixtures will play and the form of other teams, I think psychologically what it would do to the players, the manager, I think a lot of the support are already there, but it would extinguish any sort of belief around the club. And God, it's terrifying to think about it. The only thing I can think of, though, is you sometimes get games where it's so unexpected and you pull out the fire. I think back to Samaras Sunday.
Yeah.
I remember getting to half-time 0-0 and thinking, please just keep it this way, and then we go on and do it. So I don't have much faith, but the only hope I have is that shit teams have beat us before. So, yeah, I think it's huge. I think if we were to lose, it would be the end for us, and then we would have a real fight on our hands to finish third.
I think that I'm worried about their physicality. I'm worried about the fact that they can foul at will and not get pulled back for it. I'm worried about set pieces. Positives, I don't think they are the greatest defensively either. I think they've tightened up slightly, but they've lost a lot of goals in the last couple of games. I think we can get in behind. It's just if we can finish Boud. Again, it comes back to... I actually think this is probably good. I think we might draw on Sunday. And I think it might be quite a high-scoring draw. Maybe 2 each. But I'm also... I think they're weaker at the back than maybe they have been the last couple of weeks. We are pretty fucking weak at the back. You've got young Arthur, who's probably... Well, do you think it'll be Arthur or do you think it'll be Murray?
I think it'll be Arthur, but...
You wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, could go either way. I pretty much agree with everything you've said there, but it's not. I mean, it's obviously not impossible. But first of all, we've got Nygren, who can just score it well. So there's that.
I think that's a good point. Yeah, he's one of those odd players who finds and picks up space, and it's just off the ball. With their midfield, I don't think their midfield's... I think they just move the ball from midfield to front quicker than we do, and I just worry that their aggression is going to overrun us.
Yeah, but we might, again, it might be one of those, the team finally get it in their heads that they need to do something, and we get a performance out of 11 players, which...
We've been saying this about 100 times this year.
Yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to happen once. And you know what? Van Chara, he should score more, but he's got something about him. Iheanacho, if he's on, he could be quite good, maybe.
I'm a fan. Barry, in terms of, obviously, I think they'll go with Araujo, Tierney at the back. They'll go with Scales. That other centre-half position, probably Arthur.
Arthur, I would say. I think the fact that they brought him on was with that one eye on that. That
midfield three, McGregor, Oxley, Chamberlain and Nygren.
I think that's what you have to go with.
Who's your top three?
I would go Yang, Maeda and Javanchira.
Boud, would you be similar?
I'd agree with that. Aye.
Yeah, it's funny because some people were talking about. Remember, they used to have all those memes, the AJ Styles and the Undertaker meme, where it was like, oh, the night before a derby, you'd see that come out, and it'd be like, oh, James Tavernier is terrified of Maeda, and Maeda used to have him in his back pocket. Now Maeda comes off the bench, and he's just quite ineffective. But then almost all of our strikers are quite ineffective. I don't know. I don't know how to think about this game because if we draw, then we're still in it, but also Hearts kind of pull further ahead. If we lose, it feels like the end of the world in terms of all the kind of stuff that could happen from there. We then have to go to Pittodrie. That Motherwell at home game, Barry, that could be as toxic as they come. If Celtic, if
we've lost all those games going into that.
If we lose into that Motherwell game, toxicity right there.
Yeah, it could be one of the worst atmospheres in living memory, and we've said that a lot this season at Celtic Park.
I'll do my best to ensure it is.
Yes, but also that will just, that we're going to play the way they will, and I think everyone in the league knows how they're going to play, but it's just stopping them is so difficult.
Yeah, I
saw a stat last night. They've got the best defence in Europe in all the kind of. And we're not a top league, but
outside
familiar leagues. So yeah, God, we need to, by hook or by crook, try and muster a win. I would take a draw right now. And again, that probably plays into Hearts' hands, like you say. But yeah, I think I said, it was either on a reaction or the week last week, it is very much game to game. Like, I know that's a cliche, and it used to annoy me when like people within the club would say that, but I think for our own sanity, we need to kind of take it game by game and see where we are, because I think when you're at the game, so see on Sunday, when obviously we'd known that Rangers had equalised and then we were losing, like I thought, like, that's definitely it. But when you see the table, it is still there for us. And Boud made the point earlier that there will probably be changes throughout the season, but I think if we were to lose on Sunday, that would be the end for us.
In terms of coverage, we have this week, we've had the agenda on Monday. On Tuesday with the debrief, which was a breakdown of the game against Hearts from a tactical and stats point of view. Today we had the Celtic Women's Football Show, obviously the Cynic Weekly as well, which you're listening to. Thursday, tomorrow, we'll have a reaction to the Stuttgart game. We react to every single game that Celtic play. Friday, we'll have a weekend update podcast. We'll be looking ahead to the Rangers game, so that'll be your build up to that. And then on Sunday itself, we'll have a reaction to the Rangers game afterwards. We've not had time to cover the notes from the Celtic Fans Collective. They're easily downloadable from the website, so you can check that out. We'll probably discuss them in a little bit more detail either next week or the week, the next couple of weeks, because we need to have a big discussion about how the fans are being treated by the club and what the club's expectations and performance levels are, because there's some terrible stuff in there and some comments. But just as we finish, I just want to ask you about. I've got those comments from Callum McGregor about outside noise. I think it's having an impact on the whole club, if I'm honest. Well, don't be honest, just lie.
You should be having an impact. You should be getting your act together, wee man.
That's it. Talk of the manager, right? So, again, we'll come back to the collective notes later on, but they talk about how the process of picking a new manager, they just decide. They go through the Rolodex, and it's worked in the past, and why should it not work now?
Talking about Gordon Strachan, and
it was successful.
Jesus Christ! I mean, that in itself. You're going back 2 decades. There's your answer. It's a process that's 2 decades old, and it's the same people. Get a grip.
Yeah. Do you know what that reminded me of? Remember, for years before Lennoxtown was put into practice and became a reality, people said, well, if Barrowfield was good enough for the Lions.
Martin O'Neill said that. He said, if it's good enough for Jock Stein, it's good enough for me.
Yeah.
So,
why are we always looking backwards?
Absolutely. Just to finish off, I just want to ask, the Motherwell, so the 3 names, so Graham Potter was linked this week.
I think they're bloody on the Potter, if you know what I mean. Smoking that wacky backy, if we're talking about that.
We've got an article, the Cynic.co. If you go to the Cynic.co, we've got lots of writing up there that's absolutely free to everyone. You just click the link and you get access. We had an article about Roberto Martinez, Asco, the Motherwell manager, Barry. What's your kind of feelings and thoughts? Because there's been a lot of people talking about it. Obviously, there's other kind of podcasts with like Charlie Mulgrew. He said he thinks it's kind of in the bag. I don't know if it was Paul Slane or one of the guys from Open Goal said
heard something.
Yeah. Do you think it would be a good fit? And do you think that, like, what's your thoughts quickly?
Initially, a few weeks ago, I thought no, because I thought, like, see a philosophy manager at Celtic. I know Ange was successful, but I feel generally they don't tend to do well. I think they need to be a personality, and I wasn't sure if Askew had that, but the more that I see of him, I watched the game on Saturday night at St Mirren Park, and I was so impressed.
They walloped him, man.
Yeah. So I think it almost feels like he's right on our doorstep. If we don't take him, I think we could regret it. So I've come right round to the idea. But it also depends on what happens behind the scenes too. I don't think he's the type of manager that we could just hand over the keys to and get him to rebuild our club, because I think that's too big a job for him. So I would take him, but I think on the basis that there would be restructuring in the football department as well.
Boud, yourself, your thoughts?
I agree with everything Barry said there. I think he'd be a good choice, but him alone doesn't fix this. You can't just bring him in and say, I deal with that. take these signings that will give you. We need the whole structure looked at. But as you say, he's right there. We can see what he's doing. Very impressive. Motherwell, incredible defence, but we can also play a bit of football.
Is it a fear though that he takes what we have right now to a level where he improves everyone and they play in that system, but then they plateau because the club just don't give him any more money?
Well, of course.
That's my fucking concern.
Yeah,
my concern is the club go, we want to scrimp and save, so we'll bring this guy in. I think we'll have buy-in from the support, but we don't have to give him much money.
Exactly. Whereas they should be looking at Motherwell and saying, right, they've got a great coach, they've also got a good structure at the club, the fans are actually listened to, they do good work in the community. These are the kind of things that they should be looking to Motherwell to think about. How can we implement that at Celtic, as opposed to let's just steal the manager that seems to be doing quite well.
Yeah, and how can we have the wherewithal to do that on a much bigger scale?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think I would go for it, but I think he needs to come in with a wholesale change behind the scenes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, I was just going to say as well, it's, as we've said already, a complete rebuild in the summer. There's no way that this squad is surviving.
I think it's a beyond a rebuild. I think it's something that we've never... the word isn't even rebuild, it's a word that doesn't exist. And on that bombshell, it's been an absolute pleasure, a joy. Barry and Bowdy, the B team. Barry, a pleasure as always. Thanks for getting involved.
Loved it, and fingers crossed, and say a decade of the Rosary that we can muster some results.
Get a wee Navina in there, yep.
Yes, exactly. I think we've sounded a wee bit negative, but it's just the reality of the situation. So, yeah, here's hoping we are all entirely wrong and it's just win-win-win from here on out.
Absolutely. Check out the Cynic.co Patreon. If you're there, go search for the Cynic. Join us, get involved. Lots of podcasts, lots of fun. And yeah, absolutely. From Chris Boud, from Barry Gallagher, from myself, Chris Gallagher, this has been the Cynic Weekly, and we'll speak to you down the road.